The two blue lines on the pregnancy test trembled in my hands. Positive. After 3 years of disappointment, the word I'd been waiting for appeared on my phone screen, confirming what the home test suggested. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I typed a message to Ryan. Need to tell you something important. Meeting you at Giovanni's for lunch? I clutched my phone, waiting for his response while pacing our bedroom. The fertility treatments, the arguments about money, the strain on our marriage. It would all be worth it now. The screen lit up. Sure, noon works. Such a Ryan response. Short, practical, emotionless. But today, even his typical terseness couldn't dampen my spirits. I grabbed my purse and car keys, checking the time, 11:15. Perfect. Just enough time to stop at that little boutique near the restaurant and buy a pair of tiny shoes to surprise him with. The radio played some peppy pop song as I merged onto Highland Avenue. My mind raced with ways to tell him. Should I just blurt it out? Make him guess? I rehearsed different versions in my head, tasting each possibility. Remember how we talked about expanding our family? What would you say if I have some news that might change everything? The light turned green. I accelerated through the intersection, still running through scenarios. In my peripheral vision, I caught a flash of red. Metal screamed against metal. The world spun violently, my body jerking against the seatbelt. Glass exploded inward. The airbag punched my chest. Then silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I blinked, trying to orient myself. The car had come to rest at an angle, driver's side crushed against a light pole. Something warm trickled down my face. My hand came away red when I touched it. Ma'am? Can you hear me? A man's voice, distant and echoey. Don't move! Help is coming! My phone. Where was my phone? I needed to tell Ryan. He had to know before. My baby! I whispered, my hand moving to my stomach. Please, my baby. Sirens wailed in the distance. A crowd gathered, their faces blurring together as my vision swam. Someone was talking about a red pickup running the light. Another voice mentioned speed, recklessness. The words floated around me, meaningless. I found my phone wedged under the passenger seat, screen cracked but still functioning. With trembling fingers, I pulled up Ryan's message thread. Accident, Highland Ave, baby, please come. Send. The paramedics arrived in a flurry of activity and urgent voices. They asked questions I couldn't focus on, carefully extracting me from the wreckage. Everything hurt. My head spun. But all I could think about was the tiny life inside me, so newly confirmed, so desperately wanted. My husband, I managed to tell one of the paramedics as they loaded me into the ambulance. He needs to know. We'll contact him, ma'am. Try to stay still. As the ambulance doors closed, I caught a glimpse of the accident scene. A red pickup truck with a crushed front end, a middle-aged man talking to police, gesturing wildly, and standing slightly apart, a woman I recognized, Karen, Ryan's mother. She wasn't supposed to be in this part of town. The last thing I saw before the doors shut completely was Karen pulling out her phone, her face a mask of concern that didn't quite reach her eyes. Something cold settled in my chest, a feeling that had nothing to do with my injuries. Why was she there? And why, when she saw me being loaded into the ambulance, did she look more calculating than worried? The ambulance pulled away, sirens screaming, but those questions echoed louder than any noise. They would keep echoing long after the physical wounds healed, growing into something darker, something that would change everything. The hospital room's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Ryan's face as he stood at the foot of my bed, his attention fixed on his phone. 3 days since the accident, and he'd barely met my eyes. The doctor says I can go home tomorrow, I said, watching for his reaction. He nodded, still scrolling. Mother's already set up the guest room for your recovery. The guest room? My voice cracked. Ryan, I want to be in our bedroom. The guest room has better access to the bathroom, Karen interjected, sweeping into the room with a paper cup of coffee. Really, Sarah? You need to think practically right now. I pressed my hand against my stomach, still flat but holding our miracle. Have you told anyone about the baby? Karen's perfectly manicured fingers tightened around the coffee cup. Ryan finally looked up, his expression unreadable. We thought it best to wait, he said, given the circumstances. The circumstances? The monitor beside my bed beeped faster. Our baby survived the crash. I survived. Isn't that worth celebrating? Karen moved between us, her back to me as she faced her son. Ryan, darling, you have that meeting with the board in an hour. You should go. He hesitated, glancing at me for the briefest moment before nodding. Right. I'll see you tomorrow then. Ryan, wait! But he was already gone, leaving only the antiseptic smell of hospital air and his mother's disapproving presence. Karen turned to me, her smile not reaching her eyes. Now, about your recovery schedule. I've arranged for a nurse to check on you daily, and I'll be staying over to help manage things. That won't be necessary, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. I can manage. Don't be ridiculous. She pulled out a notebook, flipping it open. You'll need help with everything. Bathing, dressing, meals. And given your condition, we need to be extra careful. The way she said condition made my skin crawl, as if my pregnancy was an inconvenience rather than a blessing. A nurse entered with my evening medication, and Karen immediately took charge, questioning each pill, its purpose, potential side effects. I watched her orchestrate my care with military precision, remembering how she'd appeared at the accident scene. The question still nagged at me. Karen, I interrupted her interrogation of the nurse. Why were you on Highland Avenue that day? Her hand froze mid-gesture. For a split second, something flickered across her face. Alarm. But it vanished so quickly, I might have imagined it. I was running errands, of course, she waved dismissively. Thank goodness I was there to call Ryan immediately. But my text, your message was barely coherent, dear. If I hadn't been there to explain the situation properly, she trailed off, implying my inadequacy. The nurse finished administering my medication and left, leaving us in tense silence. Karen busied herself arranging flowers, all from her garden club friends, none from Ryan. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Mitchell, my name is Daniel Harris. We need to talk about the accident. There's more to the story. Before I could respond, Karen plucked the phone from my hands. You need rest, not social media. I'll hold on to this for now. That's my private property, I protested, but she'd already slipped it into her purse. Doctor's orders, minimal screen time. Now, about tomorrow's schedule? I let her voice fade into background noise, watching her move around the room with proprietary confidence. Something was off. The way Ryan avoided me, Karen's constant presence, that text from Daniel Harris. A memory surfaced. Karen on her phone at the accident scene, but not looking shocked or worried. Instead, she'd looked satisfied. The medication began to take effect, making my thoughts fuzzy. But as I drifted off, one clear thought remained. Karen Mitchell wasn't here to help me recover. She was here to control what I knew, what I saw, what I remembered. And somewhere in that control lay the truth about why my husband couldn't look me in the eye, why his mother appeared at exactly the wrong moment, and why a stranger named Daniel Harris thought there was more to my story than a simple car accident. Tomorrow I'd go home, but not to recover, to discover what they were hiding. 3 weeks into my recovery, I found the first credit card statement. It was tucked beneath a stack of junk mail, probably meant for the shredder. Ryan usually handled our finances online, but Karen's hovering had made him careless. The balance made my hands shake. $47,000. The charges told a story. Online gambling sites, sports betting platforms, digital casino transfers. All carefully timed between our fertility treatments, building up like a cancer while we drained our savings trying to create a family. I was still staring at the paper when Karen bustled in with another cup of her endless tea. Sarah, dear, you shouldn't be going through the mail. The doctor said to avoid stress. I held up the statement. Is this why Ryan's been working late? Her face tightened for a millisecond before smoothing into concerned motherly worry. That's Ryan's business matter. You need to focus on what? Being a good, quiet wife? Pretending everything's fine while our future disappears into gambling sites? Lower your voice, she hissed, glancing toward the stairs where Ryan was supposedly working. This isn't good for the baby. My phone buzzed. Another text from Daniel Harris. Karen had returned my phone, but only after installing some parental controls for my safety. But she couldn't block unknown numbers. Your son needs to pay his debts, I read aloud. Ask him about May 15th. Karen's teacup clattered against its saucer. That man is harassing you. We should call the police. May 15th, I repeated. The day of my accident. The day you just happened to be on Highland Avenue. Steps creaked on the stairs. Ryan appeared in the doorway, his tie loose, eyes bloodshot. What's going on? I held up the statement. You tell me. He shot a look at his mother, who stepped forward. Ryan, darling, Sarah's upset. Perhaps she needs her medication. I need the truth. I forced myself to stand, ignoring the lingering pain in my ribs. The gambling, the debt, your mother at the accident scene. It's all connected, isn't it? Ryan's face went blank. That same expressionless mask he'd worn in the hospital. You're confused. The medications... Stop! My voice cracked. Just stop lying. I pulled up Daniel's message and held out my phone. Ryan's face drained of color. Mother, he said quietly, give us a minute. Karen hesitated, then gathered her tea things with sharp movements. Don't upset her, dear. Remember what the doctor said. Once she was gone, Ryan sat heavily in the armchair, not looking at me. It got out of hand, he finally said. The fertility treatments, the gambling, I thought I could fix it. By having me run off the road? His head snapped up. What? No, I never... It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Then how was it supposed to happen? He buried his face in his hands. Harris's son owed me money. Big money. I told him to stage a minor accident. Just enough for an insurance payout to cover some debts. But he was high, drove too fast. The room spun. I gripped the back of the couch. You arranged my accident while I was carrying your child? I didn't know about the baby, and it was supposed to be just a fender bender, not... He gestured helplessly. Mother was there to make sure everything went smoothly, but then it all went wrong. A laugh bubbled up, bitter and sharp. Went wrong? I could have died. Our baby could have died. And you're worried about things going wrong? Sarah, please, don't! I straightened up, one hand protectively over my stomach. Don't say my name like you care. Don't pretend this was anything but you choosing gambling over your family. We can fix this, he said, standing. Together. Once the insurance money comes through, the insurance money. Another harsh laugh. That's all this ever was, wasn't it? A payout. A solution to your problems. I walked to the door, my whole body trembling. I'm going to lie down. When I wake up, I want you and your mother gone. Sarah? And Ryan? I turned back, meeting his eyes fully for the first time since the accident. I'm keeping screenshots of everything, every text, every statement, every confession. Try to stop me from leaving and everyone will know exactly what kind of man you are. I left him there, surrounded by the wreckage of his lies. As I climbed the stairs, I heard Karen's voice, urgent and low. What did you tell her? But I didn't stay to hear his response. I had plans to make, and this time, I wouldn't be the one caught in someone else's game. The coffee shop buzzed with morning chatter, but the space between Evelyn and me felt like a vacuum. She stared at the screenshots on my phone, her usual smile replaced by something harder. That son of a bitch, she whispered, sliding the phone back. Have you contacted Daniel Harris? I wrapped my hands around my decaf latte. Not yet. Ryan and Karen finally left yesterday, but they're watching me. Karen's got her bridge club spies reporting my every move. And the baby? My hand drifted to my stomach. Strong heartbeat at yesterday's checkup. It's the only thing keeping me sane. Evelyn leaned forward. You need to leave him, Sarah. Today. It's not that simple. I pulled out another paper. Our joint account statement. He's drained everything. The fertility treatment savings, my art commission funds, even the... The bell above the door chimed. Karen Mitchell swept in, making a beeline for our table. I quickly slipped the statement into my bag. Sarah, dear, what a surprise. Her smile could have cracked glass. Dr. Thompson didn't mention any coffee dates on your recovery schedule. It's one decaf, Karen. And Evelyn's my friend, not my warden. Of course, dear. But Ryan's so worried about you, especially after your emotional episode yesterday. She turned to Evelyn. The medications make her quite confused sometimes. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. I'm sure they do. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meeting at Reed Gallery, 2 p.m. Bring what you have. D.H. Karen's hand shot out, but I pulled the phone away. Private message from my doctor. You shouldn't keep secrets from family, Sarah. We only want to help. Like you helped arrange my accident? The coffee shop quieted. Karen's face went rigid. I don't know what Ryan told you, but you're clearly not thinking clearly. I think that's my cue. Evelyn stood, gathering her things. She squeezed my shoulder, slipping something into my jacket pocket. Call me later. After she left, Karen took her seat. Ryan's devastated, you know. He made one mistake. One mistake? My voice shook. He tried to have me killed. Don't be dramatic. It was supposed to be a simple insurance claim. If that Harris boy hadn't been so reckless... She reached for my hand. I pulled back. Why were you really there that day? I told you. The truth, Karen, for once. She studied me, calculation replacing concern. You really want to know? Fine. Ryan needed help fixing his mistake. I was there to ensure everything went smoothly. To protect my son. By sacrificing your grandchild? We didn't know about the baby then. She smiled thinly. Though it certainly complicates things now, doesn't it? My phone buzzed again. Karen's eyes flickered to it. You should be careful about meeting strange men at galleries, Sarah. In your condition. Ice shot through my veins. You're monitoring my phone. As I said, we're worried about you. She stood, smoothing her expensive skirt. Ryan will be home early today. Perhaps you two can talk properly without all these dramatic accusations. After she left, I reached into my pocket and found a burner phone from Evelyn. One text waited. Gallery meeting is a trap. Meet me at the library instead. Back entrance, 2:30. I ordered another decaf, hands trembling as I deleted the message. Karen and Ryan weren't just watching me. They were orchestrating every move, probably hoping I'd do something they could use against me. Paint me as unstable, unfit to make decisions, unfit to be a mother. The thought crystallized something inside me. This wasn't just about Ryan's betrayal anymore. This was about survival, mine and my baby's. I gathered my things, leaving cash on the table. Through the window, I spotted one of Karen's friends pretending to window shop across the street. They thought they had me trapped in their web of surveillance and manipulation, but they'd forgotten something crucial. I had nothing left to lose. I headed for the door, one hand protective over my stomach, the other clutching Evelyn's phone. It was time to meet Daniel Harris and learn exactly how deep this conspiracy went. And then I'd show them what a desperate mother-to-be could do when backed into a corner. The library's back entrance smelled of mildew and secrets. Daniel Harris waited in the shadows, a manila envelope clutched in his hands. His daughter Lily stood beside him, her small hand wrapped around his arm. You shouldn't have brought her, I said. She insisted. She saw everything that night. Daniel's voice cracked. Tell her, Lily. The girl looked up at me with old eyes. Your husband visited our house 3 times before the accident. He showed Daddy pictures of you, told him where you'd be. My stomach lurched. Pictures? Daniel pulled photographs from the envelope. Me leaving work, shopping, at doctor's appointments, surveillance shots spanning months. Ryan said it was insurance fraud, Daniel continued. Simple. Nobody gets hurt. But then Karen got involved. What do you mean? Lily squeezed her father's arm. The mean lady told Tommy to hit harder. Said it had to look real. The world tilted. I steadied myself against a shelf, the implications settling like poison. Your son is in rehab now. Daniel's jaw tightened. Karen's paying for it, keeping him quiet. But Lily saw them talking before the accident. She heard everything. A door slammed somewhere in the library. Footsteps approached. We need to go, Daniel whispered, pulling Lily closer. Karen has people everywhere, but there's something else you should know about Marcus Reed, the gallery owner. He's been investigating Ryan for months. Something about embezzled funds, missing artwork. Here, he pressed a business card into my hand. He can help, but be careful. Ryan's desperate and Karen... There you are! Karen's voice cut through the shadows. She stood at the end of the aisle, Ryan beside her. Really, Sarah? Meeting with criminals? Think of the baby. Daniel pushed Lily behind him. We were just leaving. Not with those photos. Ryan stepped forward, hand outstretched. They're private property. I clutched the envelope tighter. Like the money you stole from our accounts? I did that for us. Ryan's voice softened, trying for sincerity. The gambling, the accident, it got out of hand. But I can fix it. We can fix it together. Together? I laughed, the sound sharp and foreign. You had me followed for months. You planned my accident. That's enough. Karen's heel clicks echoed as she approached. Daniel, take your daughter and go. Remember our arrangement about Tommy? Daniel hesitated, looking between me and Karen. I nodded slightly. He had his daughter to protect. After they left, Karen turned to me. Now, about those photos. They're evidence. I stepped back, one hand on my stomach. Of premeditated assault. Of conspiracy. They're leverage, Ryan corrected. And you're not thinking clearly. The stress, the medications. I haven't taken those pills in weeks. The revelation surprised even me. I needed a clear head to understand why my husband wanted me dead. Not dead, Karen interjected smoothly. Just temporarily inconvenienced. For the insurance. And now, I met Ryan's eyes. What's the plan now that I know everything? Something shifted in his expression. Something cold and calculating that I'd never seen before. Or maybe I just never wanted to see it. Now, he said, you're going to give me those photos, go home, and forget this foolishness. Think about our baby. Think about your future. I am thinking about the future. I pulled out my phone, my real one, not Evelyn's burner. That's why I recorded everything Lily just said. Everything you both just admitted. Karen's perfectly composed face cracked. Ryan lunged for the phone, but I was already moving, ducking under his grasp and running toward the main library. Sarah! His voice echoed behind me. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I burst through the doors into the crowded main floor, clutching the envelope and phone. My heart pounded as I wove between shelves, past startled patrons. I had what I needed now. Proof, testimony, recordings. But as I heard Ryan's footsteps behind me, I realized this was just the beginning. The real question wasn't what he'd done anymore. It was what I was willing to do to make him pay for it. Marcus Reed's business card burned in my pocket like a promise, or a warning. Marcus Reed's gallery felt like a fortress of glass and steel. He studied the surveillance photos spread across his desk, his expression unreadable. Your husband's been laundering money through art sales, he said finally. Using my gallery as cover. Karen's been facilitating the transactions. I gripped the chair's armrest. How long? 2 years. But that's not why you're here. He slid a folder toward me. This is what they're really afraid of. Inside were documents showing a complex web of fraud. Forged paintings, inflated sales, offshore accounts, all leading back to Ryan and Karen. They'll go to prison, I whispered, unless you take the deal they're offering. My head snapped up. What deal? The one Karen's lawyer will present at tomorrow's family dinner. Marcus's eyes met mine. Full custody of the baby to Ryan. Supervised visitation for you. In exchange, all evidence of their crimes disappears. The room spun. How do you know about... Because they offered me the same choice 6 months ago. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a faded hospital bracelet. My wife wasn't as lucky as you. Her accident was fatal. Cold understanding settled in my chest. Ryan and Karen used the same playbook, but I couldn't prove it. His laugh was bitter. Now I can, but only if you're willing to risk everything. My phone buzzed. Karen's text about tomorrow's dinner. The perfect controlling mother-in-law gathering the family to heal our rifts. What's your plan? I asked. Marcus outlined it quickly. The hidden recordings, the federal agents waiting for a signal, the evidence ready to be revealed. Everything hinged on getting Ryan and Karen to incriminate themselves at dinner. It's dangerous, he warned. They're desperate, and Karen's already laid the groundwork to paint you as unstable. I don't have a choice. My hand rested on my stomach. They'll never stop otherwise. The gallery door chimed. Evelyn rushed in, face pale. Sarah, they're here. Ryan and Karen. They followed me. Before we could move, they swept in. Ryan in his perfect suit, Karen in pearls, both wearing expressions of concerned family members. Sarah, darling. Karen's voice dripped sympathy. We've been so worried, especially after that scene at the library. The library where you threatened Daniel Harris? I stood, placing the desk between us. Or where Ryan admitted to planning my accident. You're confused again. Ryan stepped forward. The medications? I'm not confused. I held up my phone. I have recordings. Proof. Of everything. No, you don't. Karen's smile turned sharp. Check your phone, dear. I did. The recordings were gone. All of them. Amazing what a good hacker can do, Ryan said softly. Now, about tomorrow's dinner, and the custody arrangement. Marcus moved to intervene, but Karen raised her hand. Marcus, dear, remember our agreement? About those painting authentications? His face went slack. They had something on him, too. You can't win this, Ryan said, almost gently. Think about the baby. Think about your future. My future? The laugh that escaped me didn't sound sane. Maybe they were right about that part. You tried to kill me. You're still trying to destroy me. And now you want my baby? We want what's best for everyone, Karen soothed. Tomorrow, we'll all sit down like family and... We're not family. I grabbed Marcus's folder, backing toward the emergency exit. We're just people who hurt each other. Sarah, Ryan started forward. Don't! My voice shook. Tomorrow at dinner, you'll get your answer. But touch me now, and I'll scream this gallery down. They let me leave, Karen's satisfied smile following me out. In the alley, my legs gave out. I slid down the wall, clutching the folder of useless evidence. They'd thought of everything, covered every angle, had leverage on everyone. My phone buzzed again. Karen confirming dinner details, playing the perfect mother-in-law to the end. Tomorrow, they expected me to surrender, to give up my baby, my future, my truth. But they'd forgotten something crucial. A mother with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous enemy of all. I pulled out Marcus's business card and turned it over. On the back was a single word, written in his wife's handwriting before she died. Checkmate. Karen's dining room gleamed with calculated perfection. Crystal glasses caught the chandelier light, white roses arranged just so. A perfect setting for the family drama she'd orchestrated. I arrived early, Marcus's wife's final recording device hidden beneath my maternity dress. Ryan paced near the window while Karen fussed with place settings. Sarah, darling, she gestured to a chair. Shall we begin? Not yet. I placed a manila envelope on the table. We're waiting for guests. Ryan stopped pacing. What guests? The doorbell answered him. Daniel Harris entered first, followed by his daughter Lily, then Evelyn, and finally Marcus Reed. Karen's smile tightened. This is a family dinner. They are family. I opened the envelope. Everyone here is connected by your lies. Sarah, Ryan warned, think carefully about what you're doing. Like you thought carefully about having me run off the road? I turned to Lily. Tell them what you saw that night. The little girl stepped forward, her voice clear. Mrs. Mitchell gave Tommy money, said to hit the car hard enough to make it count. Karen laughed, but it sounded hollow. A child's imagination. Ryan, control your wife before... Before what? Marcus interrupted, placing a laptop on the table. Before she shows everyone the real gallery records? The ones proving where the gambling debts really went? Ryan moved toward me, all pretense gone. Whatever you think you have, I have everything. I pressed play on my phone. Karen's voice filled the room. Amazing what a good hacker can do. That means nothing, Karen snapped. No? I nodded to Evelyn, who opened her laptop. Your hacker was sloppy, left traces. Every deleted file, every altered record. We recovered them all. Ryan lunged for the laptop, but Daniel blocked him. Touch anyone here, he said quietly, and Tommy tells the real story about that night. You're bluffing. Karen's composure cracked. We own you all. The gallery fraud, the accident, Tommy's rehab, my wife's death? Marcus's voice cut like steel. Did you own that too, Karen? The room went silent. Ryan turned to his mother. What is he talking about? Nothing. But Karen's hands shook as she reached for her wine. He's lying. Like you lied about Sarah's accident? Ryan's face had gone pale. You said it would be minor, just enough for insurance. It had to look real. Karen's voice hardened. Everything I did was to protect you. The gambling debts, the gallery scheme, I fixed it all. By killing Marcus's wife? By trying to kill me? My hand rested on my stomach. What was next, Karen? What happens when someone else threatens your perfect world? You ungrateful! She lunged across the table, wine glass shattering. Everything happened at once. Ryan grabbed his mother's arm. Evelyn shouted. Daniel pulled Lily back. And through the dining room windows, flash photographs captured every moment. What? Karen froze. Insurance, I said quietly. The real kind. Every word, every confession, documented by the reporters I invited to watch through your lovely picture windows. You can't, Ryan started. I already did. I stood, legs shaking but voice steady. The story breaks tomorrow. The fraud, the accident, everything. Your choice now is simple. Sign the divorce papers giving me full custody, Or let the police sort out who did what? Karen sank into her chair, perfectly manicured world crumbling. Ryan stared at her, seeing his mother clearly for the first time. You killed someone, he whispered. You tried to kill Sarah, our baby. I protected you, she hissed. Everything I did. Oh, sign the papers. His voice cracked. Both of us now, before this gets worse. As they signed with trembling hands, I looked around the perfect dining room with its shattered glass and scattered roses. At Marcus, who'd found justice for his wife. At Lily, who'd found courage to tell the truth. At my unborn child who would never know this poisoned version of family. It's done, Ryan said hoarsely, sliding the papers back. I gathered my evidence, my allies, my future. At the door, I turned back one last time. Karen? She looked up, broken but still defiant. The roses are wilting, I said softly, and left them in their ruined perfection. The gallery walls held my story in broad strokes of red and black. Pain made visible, revenge captured in oil and canvas. Marcus stood beside me as we surveyed the exhibition space, my swollen belly now 8 months along. Your best work yet, he said quietly, though the subject matter might be controversial. Truth usually is. I adjusted a frame showing a shattered wine glass, roses bleeding across white linen. Have you seen the morning news? He nodded. Karen's arrest had made headlines. Fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder. Ryan had turned state's evidence, trading testimony for a lighter sentence. The perfect family facade had crumbled like the empire it protected. Sarah! Evelyn rushed in, waving a newspaper. They're running the full story, everything. I took the paper, studying the photos. Karen in handcuffs, her pearls gleaming under police lights. Ryan being led from his office. The gallery's fraudulent records exposed. Your opening's going to be packed, Marcus said. Everyone wants to see the art that brought down the Mitchells. Not everyone! I touched a canvas showing a broken woman surrounded by surveillance photos. Daniel called. Tommy's doing better in rehab. Real rehab this time, not Karen's version of control. The gallery door chimed. Lily Harris entered with her father, her small face lighting up at the artwork. You made it pretty, she said, studying a painting of the accident scene. Even the scary parts. Sometimes that's how we survive them, I replied, by making them into something else. Daniel squeezed his daughter's shoulder. The detective called. They're reopening the investigation into Mrs. Reed's accident. Marcus went still. After all this time, Karen's talking, trying to bargain. Daniel's voice hardened. Some truths don't stay buried. The gallery filled with early visitors, critics, collectors, the morbidly curious. They moved between my paintings, whispering about scandal and revenge. None of them understood that each canvas was a step away from victimhood, towards something harder to define. Mrs. Mitchell? A familiar voice made me turn. Ryan stood in the doorway, thinner and grayer than I remembered. His eyes fell to my stomach, then to the paintings surrounding us. You can't be here, Marcus stepped forward, but I held up my hand. It's all right. I faced my ex-husband. Say what you came to say. I'm sorry. The words fell like stones. Not just for the accident, for letting her control everything, for not being strong enough to... To what? To protect your wife? To choose your child over your mother's manipulation? I gestured to the artwork. These aren't about forgiveness, Ryan. They're about survival. I know. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. The last of the divorce papers. And this. A smaller envelope. It's all the passwords, account numbers, everything Mother hid. Marcus might need them for the investigation into his wife's death. I took the envelopes, feeling their weight. Was it worth it? The perfect son act? No. He looked around at my painted testimony. But you made something real from our lies. That's more than we ever did. After he left, I opened the small envelope. Inside was a note in Karen's handwriting. Some games have no winners. The baby kicked as I read it, strong and insistent. A reminder that survival takes many forms. Ready to open? Marcus asked, watching the growing crowd outside. I surveyed my gallery of vengeance transformed into art. Each piece told a story of betrayal and justice, of wounds turned to weapons. But the final painting, still covered in the corner, showed something different. I pulled the sheet away, revealing a simple ultrasound image rendered in soft colors. New life emerging from destruction. Not healing. I was past believing in that kind of redemption, but transformation. Ready, I said, and opened the doors to let the world see what revenge looked like when painted in truth's colors. Behind me, Karen's note fluttered to the floor, landing beside the ultrasound painting. Some games have no winners, she'd written. But she'd been wrong about that too. Sometimes winning isn't about victory. Sometimes it's about surviving to paint your own story.